For record-keeping purposes, if you wish to make a statement regarding any item on the agenda, please complete a form located at the entrance or at the rear of the council chambers and deposit it with the Planning and Housing Commission secretary. Welcome to tonight's Planning and Housing Commission meeting. Commissioner Alexander will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Persons wishing to address the Planning and Housing Commission are requested to state their name for the record. This portion of the agenda is intended for public comment. State law prohibits the Commission from discussing or taking action on items not listed on the agenda. We will appreciate your cooperation in keeping your comments brief. Please observe a 3-minute limit to your communications. First off, Ms. Capilla, did we receive any speaker cards or written comments from the public for items not listed on the agenda?
No, Chair, we did not.
Very good. Next, we'll turn our attention to the approval of minutes for the Planning and Housing Commission meeting from March 25th, 2024. Any speaker cards or comments regarding those?
No, Chair.
All right. Then do we have a motion regarding the minutes?
I motion to approve the March 25th meeting minutes.
And I'll second. Let's please vote.
Commissioner Siquelin, how do you care to vote?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, motion passes. We have one item tonight on the consent calendar. Consent items are not heard as public hearings and can be approved without discussion. However, I would like to pull this item from the consent calendar and have us take a look at that. So this is for item 2, PPE 2024-0001, an application requesting a 2-year extension of time for Precise Plan 2019-0009. This is for the development of 6 apartment units on a 0.34 acre site in the R3 multifamily residential zone located at 1109 Circle City Drive. Applicant is Anthony Lopez. We have Mr. Daldy, our assistant planner, here to present the item.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Chair, members of the Planning Commission. I'm Brendan Daldy, Assistant Planner. Pleased to present the item before you tonight for Precise Plan Extension 2024-0001. Project address is at 1109 Circle City Drive. Just wanted to give a commission the brief refresher of how we got here today. So back in November of 2019, we received a submittal for a 6-unit apartment project located at 1109 Circle City Drive. Then in June of 2020, we saw the project and properties both sell to the current applicant, Anthony Lopez. And then in April of 2022, that Precise Plan 2019-0009 was approved by the Planning and Housing Commission on April 11th of 2022. At that meeting, there were 2 additional conditions that were added. One of those conditions included the installation of stronger language in the lease agreements for the parking. And then the second condition was to add trellises from an existing or proposed 2 feet up to proposed 4 feet. Then in February of 2024, the property and project sold again to a new property owner. And today we are here in April of 2024 for a Precise Plan extension. That Precise Plan extension number again is 2024-001. Moving forward, to add to your refreshment, this is what was previously approved on April 11th. In Precise Plan 2019-0009. Zoning is zoned R3, multiple family residential, and the general plan and zoning designation is high-density residential. Proposed 2 buildings, letter A and letter B, 3 units side by side, 2-bedroom units, and they both have each unit will have 2 parking spaces in their enclosed garage, and then it will also have a community area in the back of the lot. In this case, it'll be on the right, on the northern portion. That red box over to your left is indicating the only access on the site from Circle City Drive on the left side to the south of the lot. Moving forward, we have our elevations and renderings. Up at the top, we have both Building A and B south rendering. This would be the view from Circle City Drive looking onto the property to the north. And then at the bottom picture, we have Building B's west elevation. That would be the view from the interior circulation roadway there in the middle of the 2 buildings looking to your right. So that would be the west side of the structure. Furthermore, we have our reasons for request. First reason is obviously the change of ownership back in February of 2024. The second request was due to the increased interest rates and the lack of confidence in the real estate market after COVID-19 has led to a few setbacks in the project. And the last request is to complete the plan check reviews that they currently have. They currently have 3 separate plan check reviews, one with Public Works for their grading, one with Building and Safety for their building and safety structural plans, and then also a landscape plan. And they are anticipated to be done and permits issued by the end of this year. And with that, we have staff's recommendation. Staff's recommendation is that the Planning and Housing Commission adopt a resolution number 2631 granting a 2-year extension of time for Precise Plan 2019-0009 based on the findings contained in the staff report. And with that, myself and the rest of the staff are available for any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Daldy. Was that your first presentation here to the commission?
Yes, Chair.
All right, very nicely done.
Thank you.
So at this point, we'll take questions from the commissioners to staff.
I had a question. Thank you, and good job. I was interested in the property being sold February 2024. So the applicant continues with the process, even though there's a new owner, and will the applicant be involved all the way through? Up to what point?
Sure. Yeah, so I actually had a conversation with the new property owner earlier today. He indicated that the applicant still is invested in the project to a certain degree. I don't know when exactly that'll switch over to the new property owner's responsibilities. It seems that they'll be working together for quite some time.
And I had one other question. Just from recollection, it's always been a 2-year extension versus just a 1-year. Seems like that just would be enough buffer time to get from the description in page 2 that you wrote up. It seems like 1 year would be enough, or is it just standard 2-year?
The request received from the applicant was for a 2-year extension of time, so that's what we had indicated in the staff report. That's where that 2-year number came from.
Thank you. I especially like this project. I like the architecture. I think it's a good fit for an infill project. And it matches the area. It'll be the best looking thing on the block. So although I was a little disappointed to see the delay, I certainly understand. Thank you.
Other questions? Do we know if the applicant is available tonight?
I don't believe the property owner applicant were available to attend tonight's meeting. If they aren't in the Zoom call currently, then they wouldn't have shown up tonight.
And then I guess I'll follow up on some of what Commissioner Alexander asked. Based on the plan check timelines that you've presented in the staff report and told us tonight, it does seem like they're expecting that to be done, you said, by the end of the year. I mean, do you feel like that, does staff feel like that a 1-year extension would still provide enough time for the applicant to be able to complete the project and begin?
Yeah, so currently the way it stands, just a little background on each of them, I'll go into a little bit more detail. The building permit currently is just working on some minor comments from our development services department. Then they have sprinkler plans that are being routed to. Those are typically the very end, just wrapping up some of those comments. So if they are receptive to those comments, then I do anticipate them to at least get a building permit issued by the end of the year, pending obviously the other conditions. Their landscape plan, their comments were minor. They didn't seem to be too concerned about those comments. And then as for the grading plan, they had mentioned that it should be submitted it should be approved by the end of their next submittal. A retaining wall would be needed at a separate application process.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then that grading, I think it was in the staff report. When was that at an earlier time frame than one of the other ones, or was that the later? Or am I confusing things?
I think those will relatively fall in the same time frame, yeah.
All right, very good, thank you. All right, well, I guess with that, we will open a public hearing. Since we're done with questions for staff, Ms. Capilla, do we have speaker cards for this item, or is everyone here for the following items?
That is correct. So none that I received for this item.
Okay. All right. Well, then we will close the public hearing unless anyone wishes to come forward right now and speak. So we'll come back to the commission for comments. I'm a little iffy personally on the timeline of this. So I lean toward a 1-year extension rather than 2 years. I believe we have that discretion to do so. And then if there actually are more unforeseen things, I'd be willing to, reevaluate in a year. But I don't know. Other commissioners may feel differently about it.
Well, Chair, I think I was just asking for procedural-wise, what is SOP, standard operating procedures within staff or applicants? I don't have a problem with it. 2 years.
Yeah, and we have some consistency here. This is not the first time that we've been asked for an extension of a precise plan, and we typically do them 2-year increments. Commissioner Woody, I do understand your thought process there, but I also don't see, since it's not a change to the precise plan, it's really just an extension. I kind of feel that a 2-year is appropriate in this case.
I would agree with that a 2-year, it's in their best interest to go quickly, so it doesn't bother me at a 2-year.
Okay, I'm swayed by my colleagues here. I just am skeptical that sometimes when people tell us that's all they need, that is indeed all they need. So I'm okay with the 1-2-year extension.
I will move for approval.
I would second.
All right, then let's please vote.
Chair Sikwalan, can I have your vote?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Motion passes. All right, let's move on to what everyone's here for. So public hearing for SPA 2023-001. This is continued from a previous Planning Commission meeting. So this is for a specific plan amendment to the El Cerrito specific plan, Section 12.8, to allow educational schools in the commercial district by way of a conditional use permit. The applicant is River Springs Charter Schools. We have also, following this, item number 4 for CUP 2023-0017, also continued, a conditional use permit application to establish a charter school within an existing 44,800 square foot commercial building at 2115 Compton Avenue in the commercial district of the El Cerrito Plan. Since the items are related, staff will give a presentation to the commission covering both items, and then we will deal with each of the items separately after that. And with that, I'll turn it over to our senior planner, Ms. Choi.
Thank you, Chair, for the introduction, and good evening, member of the commission and staff. As mentioned, this is a two items presentations. This is including the specific plan amendment 2023-0001 and conditional use permit 2023-0017. The requests were previously considered by the Planning Commission at its March 11th, 2024 meeting. At that meeting, the Commission voted to continue the items because there were missing information, or the Commission needed clarification on the outdoor play area and the realistic capacity of the school's enrollment. Subsequently, the applicants has provided additional information for the Commission's consideration, and we are returning tonight for your review. Again, the specific plan amendment is to add a educational school as a conditional use within the commercial district in the El Cerrito specific plan. That's SP 91-2. As for the conditional use permit, it is a request to allow the commission to evaluate any future educational school wishing to operate within the commercial zone that will come before the commission for case-by-case review. Within the El Cerrito specific plans, there are 3 distinct commercial districts, and one of the district is the commercial district, and this is the location of the proposed project, 2115 Compton Avenue. The site is just to the west of Interstate 15, north of Ontario Avenue, and the applicant is requesting the commission to add an educational use to the specific plan. And circled on the screen in front of you are the 3 areas that are zoned commercial district within the specific plan. As you can see, these areas are quite limited in comparison to the rest of the specific plan. And I should point out that the area on the lower portion of the screen, the large red area, that area is outside of the city's jurisdiction. As mentioned earlier, that the El Cerrito specific plan within the commercial district, currently we do allow certain type of commercial uses, and those uses that are similar to an educational school are specifically for business and professional development only. And these are dance studio, drama classes, music classes, swimming classes. They are really intended for recreational purposes. And the applicant wishes to operate an educational school that is, to some degree, granting a degree or certification or a high school diploma. Before you is a list of conditional uses that are allowed by conditional use permit. These uses will come before the commission if an application is submitted to the city. However, the applicant wishes to add educational school into this list. And again, this is to allow the Planning Commission the ability to evaluate each operation and location on a case-by-case basis. With the slide before you, I will go into the updated information provided by the applicant on the conditional use permit request, and this really has to do with the operation of the school. Based on the commission's comment at the last hearing, the applicant has provided an updated site plan. And on this site plan, you will see that on the lower right-hand corner on the slide, there is a dedicated area for outdoor play area. And this area is approximately 1,100 roughly 11,800 square feet, I'm sorry. But overall, within the commercial center, we still do have 3 buildings on site. One is the Pink Shop, and the second is the America's Tire Shop. Those 2 businesses will retain their parking spaces next to their business building. The applicant will be devoting 32 parking spaces at the northeast corner of the property for the outdoor play area. And in a way, they are still meeting the parking requirement, even though they are removing 32 parking spaces. Based on the use and the proposed classroom and enrollment, the entire site will be required to provide 122 parking spaces. And based on the updated site plan, they are showing 220 parking spaces. The slide before you provide additional information about the outdoor play area, being that this was one of the concerns that the commission brought up at the last hearing. The outdoor play area will be divided into 2 areas based on school grade. The area, they will be based on transitional kindergarten to 3rd grade, and then other area where the pickleball area is along the north property line will be devoted for 4th to 12th graders. The outdoor play area will be used during morning and afternoon recess, lunch break. Students will also have the option to enjoy their lunch inside a multi-purpose room in addition to having lunch outside in the play area. And as well as after-school programs will take place in the outdoor play area as well. School personnel will be provided whenever students are outside in the outdoor play area. And the applicant provided that a minimum of 2 staff members will be assigned to supervise the outdoor play area whenever students are in that area. I do have to point out that the outdoor play area is separated by fencing. That way, vehicle maneuvering in and out of the parking stall near the outdoor play area will not cause a safety issue to students that are outside. The applicant provided an updated operation summary to staff and the commission. If you recall, at the last hearing, the applicant projected that the enrollment will be up to about roughly 900 students. The applicant has reconsidered their program and is now stating that the transitional kindergarten and kindergarten student will remain at its current campus on 2nd Street. The applicant will provide limited services to transitional kindergarten and kindergarten students at this new campus. And they're estimated that the student will be roughly about 12 students on an ongoing basis. However, the anticipated enrollment has decreased roughly about 30%, down to about 621 students. Before you listed are the class schedules. Again, the drop-in service for transitional kindergarten and kindergarten student only, and that is limited to roughly 8 o'clock to noontime. These students will also stay for the lunch break as well, and they may or may not, they will be able to enjoy the outdoor play area as well. 1st to 4th graders start their day a little earlier, and this is part of the concept to reduce the drop-off and pick-up at the same time, so that way they are staggered into 2 groups. 1st to 4th grader will be on campus from roughly 8:10 in the morning to about 3:10 in the afternoon. 5th to 12th grader will be on campus from 8:40 to 3:40. Following that, the school does offer after-school program, which ends at 6 p.m. The applicant just stated that occasionally there will be parents and teacher conferences where parents and teacher may arrive on campus as early as 6 a.m. The school will offer 1 summer camp section, and that's 1 time per year, and that will last for 4 days from Tuesday to Friday, and these are typically half-day schedules. And provided before you is a new classroom or floor plan layout. If you recall, the last floor plan that the applicants provided has a greater seating capacity within each room, And at this time, the floor plan before you included roughly 29 students in each room. Additionally, the applicant is providing other recreational and common space such as a library and a robotic lab within the building to provide greater usage of the interior space. The applicant also updated the drop-off and pickup diagram. And I do want to point out to you that the applicant also provided an option 2 to this diagram, which provide additional stacking capacity if the needs arise. However, primarily the applicant will be utilizing this diagram to operate and provide drop-off and pickup instruction to parents. First, there is the north driveway, which the applicant anticipate to have to direct 78% of the vehicle coming in and out of that driveway. And that is primarily for parents to drop off their kids, and they will go through, enter the queuing line based on the green line on your screen and go through the parking lot loop around the south portion of the parking lot and come back. So the vehicle will be right in front of the front door of the building facing Compton Avenue. And there is a second driveway access to this site, and that we call this the south driveway, which is the driveway between the project property and the adjacent business. The applicant will be directing staff, parents with younger children that need to park their vehicle and walk their student to the front of the school, and high school student who will be driving on campus and needs to park their vehicle on site. So this driveway is anticipated to receive roughly 20% of the traffic coming onto the campus. The applicant's traffic engineer is available and will be providing a more detailed presentation to this diagram if the commission wishes to entertain any questions and comments. With this, staff is concluding the staff presentation, and staff's recommendation is to approve the specific plan amendment request based on finding provided in the staff report, and that the tax amendment is exempt from CEQA because it is certain that it will not have any environmental impact. Additionally, staff is recommending that the commission adopt resolution number 2627 granting the conditional use permit request for this location to operate an educational school. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Ms. Choi. And with that, I will let our commissioners ask questions of staff. I think, we try to do our best to separate the items with our questions, but it may be unavoidable that we can do that here. So I'll yield to my colleagues.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ms. Choi, especially working with the applicant and getting it back so quickly to us. A lot of work, a lot of changes, and I appreciate the changes that were made. If you could go back to that slide having to do with the queuing, please. So I'm looking at the, on page 7, under environmental analysis, the second paragraph there where it's talking about the daily trips and that analysis there. So I wanted to focus on, let's say, one of them. Let's say the 491 trips, rounded up to 490, let's say, in the morning hour. So is it accurate to say that 490 trips would be a drive to the site, to drop off, and then leave the site? So that would be 2 trips? One coming to the site and one leaving the site in the morning peak hours, let's say?
I will defer that information to the applicant's traffic engineer.
Or it could have gone through Ms. Rosie's. Is that a correct definition for trips, daily trips? So 1, to drop the child off, and 2, to leave this campus. That would be a second trip?
No, the 490 that you're asking about are combined. To and from.
Correct. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
So let's just talk about in the morning for drop-offs, let's say. So let's drop that down to 240. Let's say half that, right? So 240, and let's say that's during peak hours, but let's say that all the staff's already there, and let's just assume 200 cars or 180 cars, somewhere in that area. And drop-off is at 8:10. Well, picking up grandkids, I know I don't get there at 8:10. I get there half hour early or 20 minutes early. So as the cars are there waiting for staff to come out, let's say, and the drop-off is in that peak hour, and I'm looking at this slide here for queue capacity, so 38 in the green, and then 5 orange and 5 yellow. So 40 of those 48 vehicles, I just want to know where the other 140 cars are. I know they all don't show up at 8:10, right? So it's spread out. So even if it's 100 cars and 48 of them are in the queue, where are the other cars?
You're talking about a peak hour, and then the operations, it's staggered, so more parents will come in the morning to drop off the smaller children, I believe, and the older children come in half an hour later. So parents will come in, drop off, and move forward. They're not going to be idling, waiting for an hour.
Okay, so of those 200, there's 100 cars showing up for the younger kids, showing up for 8:10. Not the 8:40, but the 8:10, let's say. There's 48 in the queue. Where's the other 48 vehicles going to go?
I don't think it's expected to have 100 people waiting to enter the driveway.
Because are you saying it's going to be over the period of 20 minutes before maybe, and then it's going to be a progression?
Right.
Okay.
Kind of like our public schools, it's usually 15 minutes of peak, but like when I drop off my children, I get through within 5 minutes. So I'm not waiting for 15 minutes as everyone else is stacking behind me.
Okay, and for those, it's not strictly numbers of, let's say, 100 cars, right? Because sometime between the 8:10 and the 8:40, you've got the earlier, older kids' parents dropping them off. So it could be as much as 100 or more cars in that peak critical time period. I'm just, those I was trying to understand that a little bit better. Thank you.
Yeah, but the line is also moving. As parents are arriving, the ones in front of the line are also already dropping off and clearing that queue.
Understood. Okay. Thank you, Chair.
How do we control that if that's not how it happens? That's probably my biggest fear, is that that's how we're envisioning it, but when in reality, if it is 100 cars queuing on Compton to Ontario, what rights does the city have to do anything about it after the fact?
In my case, I would probably reach out to the school and say, can we come up with a different plan? Your plan that you have today is not working and we're seeing so much stacking. That's what I would do. I would approach the school and come up with a, I guess, different plan, whether they extend the hours of drop-off. That's usually what I ask the public schools to do. Is there any way you can, allow for a longer drop-off time so more parents can come in? Extend the drop-off area is what I'm saying.
But nothing gives us the right to require it.
Joanne, can you help me on that one?
Yeah, so if there's any backup on our street that's causing a concern, absolutely, we can talk to them about another traffic control plan. But I believe what you heard last time from the school themselves, they said if they evaluate this and it's not working, then they'll have to come up with Plan B, and they have a way of fixing that on site if they have to come with a different rotation. So they themselves are also monitoring this to make sure the flow works, and if it doesn't, then they have to find a way to fix it, because it affects their functionality as well. And I think they will get up and probably speak to that. But absolutely, we have the right. If we start getting complaints, we would have to sit down with them and have them look at how we can reallocate or redesign the queue.
Thank you.
Ms. Choi, could you go to the slide that shows the outdoor play area, the new one? And I just wanted to hone in on a comment. So if I understand from the previous application, the playing areas that are now showing the play areas, those were previously parking spaces, correct?
That's correct.
And so the ratio, because the occupancy is planned to be down to 621, is that what allowed those to be eliminated?
That's correct.
Oh, yeah, and that would be a permanent elimination that would be built out. Is that, what I couldn't tell in the design, is that asphalt or is that an improved surface that the playing area is?
It will be improved surface. The applicant had explained that it will be soft area, and that way it will be suitable for younger kids to play on that playground.
Okay, so the ability to convert these to parking goes away. They are permanently these play areas.
That's correct.
And then I think you mentioned, it was a little bit hard to tell in the packet, but the fencing, so that is a permanent fence line that trails
Along the border of the
along
play
the border?
area. Yes. However, I imagine fencing, since they are essentially inserted into the ground in the concrete area in the future, if the applicant no longer wishes to use the area as outdoor play area, those fencing can simply be removed and fill in the concrete, repair the concrete on the ground and restore the area.
But with that, and that would be if the need to, if occupancy changed in the future, they would still have to come back before the commission to seek a greater occupancy, I believe, correct? And then they'd have to reevaluate the parking.
Yes, and again, if we can also evaluate over time, what is their actual need? Even though we have it on the books that it says you need this many spaces, the reality may be that they may not. And as you know, we look at shared analysis all the time on other projects, so it really comes down to what's their overall need.
Sure, because this is quite different now that we see it in a true design. It's not really a convertible play area. It is a full-time, all-use play area.
Yes.
Yep.
And actually, now that we've had, with the lower enrollment, particularly a lot of the older students, right, the high school students, that's what allowed it to be dropped down quite a bit. And so there's actually a substantial surplus of parking at this point. Is that correct?
That's correct, Chair.
Okay.
And if I could ask a question to traffic, Ms. Rosie. I believe there was a comment that there's a future Caltrans project related to this. Could you maybe explain how that may impact, or if it does impact Compton Avenue?
That's part of the cumulative study. In the traffic study, he accounted for the improvements on the Ontario interchange.
And what are those improvements, though?
We will be widening between the city. We'll be widening between California and State Street to 3 lanes. So it'll actually help with improving the let out when they go southbound onto Ontario. They'll have an exclusive lane.
All right, but the flow of Compton, it's still only a right turn from...
Yes, that'll remain a right turn.
So the actual activity of the area would be the same. It would just increase the Ontario Avenue by a lane on each side.
Right, and we shared our plans, our conceptual plans, with the traffic engineer.
Okay.
On that note, if I could just tag in, Ms. Rosie, if during construction, what does that look like for that area for after it starts and after the lanes are delineated, and will there be a reduction in lanes to make way for that construction? How does that work?
We won't know until we see the staging and the construction plans, but we also don't know if that'll occur over the summer or over the winter months and how it will work with the school. And that'll be something we'll consider when we do the project on the traffic side.
Thank you.
I have a question, I guess, for staff. So we've got the, I do like I appreciate the revised site plan showing the playground, and I'm glad Commissioner Sickland kind of clarified that a bit. Now I guess I don't quite understand on the queuing. the diagram with the orange and the yellow, because it seems like what that potentially, if I'm understanding it, we're splitting them up, only then to merge them back again after. Is that how that's envisioned? I wasn't clear what the link 2 and link 3 meant.
That's correct. Those are additional linked that if there are more parents in the stacking line, that the traffic monitor, which are also the school personnel, will then take some vehicle out to create what you're seeing, the link 2 and link 3, which are orange and yellow, identified on the diagram in front of you, to create those 2 additional stacking area to allow more vehicle on site instead of vehicles spilling out onto the street.
Okay. But overall, the main part of the stacking, the queue, the green line there is the same as that we were presented at the previous proposal. Is that right?
Correct. I believe that's 830 feet, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, because I too am somewhat concerned about the possibility of, cars spilling out. And my other concern, which might be even more acute, is the way this line comes from the north and then goes back. So there's cars side by side, and I can just wonder a kid getting to school late, getting out on the downward side and then trying to cut through cars to get into the school. So that's my other concern about this particular arrangement. I understand the idea was coming from the northern entrance was to prevent, cars from possibly backing up onto Ontario, but I'm a little concerned about that, kids needing to cross in front of cars or...
I don't think that's allowed. I think they were very clear about that at the last meeting. There is a protocol, and they actually have to be dropped off in front of the building where the entrance is.
I understand that's the plan, but it just kind of sticks out to me. But I'll let other questions go if you have them. Go ahead.
Does the traffic study contemplate where the 400 and some trips are when they leave, where they're going?
Yes, it's a distribution. So I think you guys remember the Montelivo project, but they don't all necessarily go to the same location. Some people go back home. Some people will then access the 15. Others will access Ontario. And we usually do that by doing the best guesstimate that we have by predicting what movements we see today. So we're able to distribute the trips throughout our network.
And we feel good that the exiting cars that want to get back to the 15 that are obligated to make a right on Ontario and then will inevitably do a U-turn to get back to the freeway isn't going to create more congestion than it already exists at that intersection?
Right. The level of service was not significantly impacted.
Okay.
With this slide up here, and to tag on to the chair's questions, the parents are signing letters of agreement to the traffic plan, the drop-off plan, and the pickup plan. And the cars that have the word car that are designated in this diagram here that are further away from the building are not letting kids out of the vehicle to cross in front of the cars that are making their way up to the queue. Is that correct?
That's my understanding as well.
Ms. Rizzi, one other question. So in driving the site again, something came to my mind about Compton, and I wasn't sure about what the operating procedure is, but the Sam's Club gas facility, if it's operating the way I saw it the other day, is that there's no entrance from Compton Road. I wanted to confirm if that was your understanding. And then 2, the delivery trucks for Sam's Club definitely only access on Compton Road. And so I'm just curious, what the city staff did to kind of evaluate the level of service on Compton, knowing that there were, large delivery trucks at Sam's Club that only come on to Compton. I just wonder if you could comment.
Commissioner, you're not saying that there's no access to the gas on Compton, because there is, the line back. It can, coming down to that area, but you can also line up southbound on Compton, waiting for entrance on that side. Both
Okay.
of them.
So then and then I guess tied to that, you have the only route for the delivery trucks is on Compton for Sam's Club. If you look at the graphic, that's the one thing that was a bit concerning to me, is that there's semi-trucks for Sam's Club coming on to Compton. I think the in-facility parking plan certainly, although it's complicated, allows a number of vehicles. It's just the only thing, and I stated before, is that Compton Avenue still is a concern.
I think the one thing that, because I also have your concerns. Go ahead.
Ms. Rosie, any comment on the delivery trucks and
Well,
how that affects the level of service?
Yeah, we haven't had any known concerns of any delivery trucks backing up onto Compton, because I believe their deliveries are scheduled. But I can definitely reach out to Sam's Club and see if they have any concerns, and that anything I can share with the school. Mm-hmm. But with Compton being wide enough, there is a two-way left turn in there where the truck will stage in there and then enter, where we do not expect to see any parents entering.
Right. Okay.
And I was just going to say, I was alleviated with the fact that the cones for any traffic, the 22% coming in on the south driveway there, the cones would discourage any cut-throughs as far as latecomers trying to break into the queue line.
And then, so we talked about my question before was about the overall queuing plan being more or less the same. Were any other alternative plans considered or suggested? Like, I wonder if there's any way to do a line where there's 2 drop-off points. So because it just seems like as was pointed out, 100 or so cars, or I guess 200 in the AM time, in the span of an hour, seems like you need to be able to get the kids out quicker. So if there were multiple drop-off points, so sort of how we considered multiple lanes at Starbucks to reduce the overall queuing.
I was under the understanding that off to the right there, where that drop-off and pickup for the students and high school students, that they would be able to access in the backside there, because they're not part of the queuing. They're parking, and then they're entering the building. Is that correct? There is a second entrance into the building? Maybe that's for the applicant. I'll hold that question. Thank you.
All right. No further questions for staff? Okay. Then at this point, we will consider the first item, open a public hearing. And so this is the specific plan amendment. And so I do have some speaker cards. And if there are any others that have come in since, I would ask for those to be brought to the podium. But in the meantime, I will read the names I have. I have Mr. Whitehead, who I believe is the principal. I have Anna Gamboa, Stevie Heiliger, and Justin Rosas, who's part of the applicant's team. So whoever wants to come first.
Hi, my name is Dr. Kathleen Hermsmeyer, and I'm the superintendent of Springs Charter Schools. And it's my pleasure here to present today, and we appreciate being allowed to give a short presentation to clarify your big questions from last month. I think we had okay, there we go. Yeah, perfect. Okay, and as you have heard, we revised our occupancy down to 621, which is 31% reduction, and it will actually be significantly less than that on any one day because we are a hybrid school program, charter school program. You can see that in addition to use classrooms, we are also going to be offering library and resource rooms for special ed, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and other types of hands-on projects. We will be having some drop-in students who will come just for services. And we're going to have 3 recreation areas. We will have an indoor multi-purpose room for recreation, which we can do a lot of great gross motor activities there, which we do in our other centers. We also have a projection screen, which gamifies PE in the indoor space. The primary outdoor space will have a peaceful playground sensory walk, as well as a play structure and a fall zone and artificial turf and a seating area, covered seating area. The intermediate outdoor space for 4th through 12th grade, we only have one class at 12th grade, and they will be separated from the rest of the group. We'll have pickleball and Gaga ball pit, and also the Peaceful Playgrounds Fitness Fun Trail. You can see the recreation areas here. The pink is the primary, the green is the intermediate, and the yellow is the multi-purpose space. You can see in the green and yellow area there on both sides of the building will be a gate, an automated gate that will close after drop-off and open before pickup so that children have a safe egress to the playground from the building, because sometimes they need to go to the bathroom in the middle of the recess, and we have coverage outside, but they will need to be able to egress. This is the side view of the retaining wall that will be built into the hill to give more playground space. You can see that's a ground view of the hill. We will be cutting into that a little bit, keeping the vegetation on the top. You can see the other view is the view from the on-ramp onto the freeway. You can see there's quite a setback from the freeway to the school. Actually, when you're down there, it's very private, and it's actually pretty quiet considering you're close to the freeway. And this is the calculated occupancy parking spaces we'll need based on our use, and the green are the student parking spaces. You can see all the other white spaces there are parking spaces for this building, so they're extra in excess, so for other visitors or events or activities. And I'm going to turn it over to Justin Rosses, who is going to talk to you a little bit about the queuing.
Thank you, Dr. Hermsmeyer. My name is Justin Rosses. I'm the traffic engineer for this project, and I do want to thank you for welcoming us back with the Refine project. So I'm going to cover quite a bit, and if I go too fast, we can always go back if you have additional questions. But basically, the project traffic also is being reduced by 31% with the reduction of students down to 621. Majority, or 75%, come from Interstate 15, and the majority also leave to go back to Interstate 15 using Compton and Ontario Avenue. This shows the distribution, with the green coming in off of Interstate 15 and taking a right turn onto Compton. The distribution is also based on the student zip codes that the school has and the anticipated if there's going to be growth. So it's pretty good estimate of what the traffic patterns will be. Leaving the site is shown in orange, and here you can see with the majority of the traffic coming down Compton, it's going to be forced to turn right currently and even after the Caltrans project. And there's 2 opportunities to make a U-turn. The first one would be at the median break where there's a signal, But if a car can't get over fast enough, then they would do a U-turn at California, return and get back onto Interstate 15. The other distributions further away are for the zip codes around the community. Traffic from other schools was accounted for in the analysis. The counts were done on January 12th in 2023 when schools were in session. The counts were done from 6:30 to 9 in the morning and 3 to 6, which covers the bell times of these other schools. Compton Avenue has sufficient capacity for this project. You can see the background traffic in this project. The gas station, I myself observed backup coming out of the gas station. Compton Avenue is approximately, I think, 35 feet in pavement. It has a center two-way left turn lane. So even though some of the cars were backed up, there was sufficient room to pass. Also, if there's any truck traffic with Sam's Club, truck deliveries are usually off-peak. They want to avoid traffic. If there's momentary delay of traffic, they would go in, they would back in, or they would go into their stall, and then normal people could pass. The shared driveway with Sherman-Williams, I mentioned this last time, it has the counts. The highest was at 10 o'clock with 20 vehicles. That's both in and out, not 40, but 10 in, 10 out. The other time periods throughout the day, there were single digits or the teens. Sherman-Williams paint store also has a second driveway, and the applicant spoke with both the paint store people and the tire people about this project twice, last May and April, if I remember correctly. On-site queuing is very important. It's probably the most critical thing in my mind. You want to be able to account for the queuing to occur on-site. So it's calculated simply by looking at other Charter Springs charter schools that are similar to what we're proposing. So for this one, I used a location that had 500 students on campus that particular day, and we measured what was the longest queue spilling back in the entire drop-off, and it was 800 feet. So you take 800 feet, divide by the students, and you get a linear 1.6 feet per student, and that translates to this location. What that doesn't mean is the roughly 23 vehicles at the peak. That's not the entire throughput. Your throughput's going to be a couple hundred vehicles in that roughly 25-minute pickup period. Drop-off is much quicker. So that's how we come up with the estimate of the spillback, or how far that queue will be. But again, pushing through that drop-off or pickup period, you're pushing a couple hundred vehicles. Here is an example of a charter school that operates in Marietta. It's in a commercial center. It's got other commercial tenants, and it's got a stacking similar to what we're doing, where you can see it's got a double loading area for parallel queuing. Here is going to be the drop-off sequence at this school. It's time-lapse, so basically this drop-off sequence took 5 minutes, but it's only going to take about 30 seconds to get through this. And here they're going through a couple curves. This is their playground area that gets fenced off and gated. They come around, they have a one-side drop-off, and typically 5 vehicles will drop their children off, and then they leave. This is the same location, but this is during the pickup. This was done in a short day, but a full day pickup is about the same. And here you can see they're coming in a single lane. They come to the curve. You can start to see a flagger, a staff member controlling the traffic, and you see the parallel queuing happening. They have to implement this here because they have a lot more site constraints than we would have on Compton Avenue. Another item you can see is the left side goes for a while, and then the right side. This is because the single lane that came in split to 2 lanes, and then it merges back to 1 lane, and you have flaggers controlling all this. And there's the playground area that wears pretty well with the vehicles using it. So now the students will get loaded up into the cars, and that queue will continue on. That took 14 minutes, but here it showed up only about a minute because of the time lapse. How this is going to work for the proposed site is about 15 minutes before the end of school, staff goes out and puts the cones, the signs, and they're going to start placing people for controlling the traffic. The early birds will start coming in and queuing up in front of the school. Now, this is what I mentioned earlier. This is the maximum queue forecasted for this site. The site has a lot of area to work with. The school is flexible. If this doesn't work, they will try something else. Or they've in the past called me up and said, this is not working, let's figure it out. We've looked at 3, 4 different things. We can change it if needed, but everything, all the calculations show that this will work at this time. But they're flexible. This is not set in stone. The site has a lot of extra capacity. So the reserve capacity, about 960 feet, translates to about 45 vehicles. So I call it a Tier 1 and Tier 2. The Tier 1 is the reserve capacity in the green area. Then you have the parallel orange and yellow, like I showed in the time lapse, how the flaggers control that. And then if absolutely needed, there's another capacity of 20 vehicles shown in the blue, with the white cars meaning that they're not needed, but they're available. And again, if this wouldn't work, then basically the school will be willing to find a solution, basically. And with that, I'd like to turn it back over to Dr. Hermsmeyer.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We are good neighbors, and we want to work collaboratively. We always work collaboratively with the city. We recognize that we are here under your approval and that you could take that away if we don't make a good faith effort on every single day to do the right thing. So I just want you to know that we are in it for the long haul. And thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. Then we have other speaker cards. So the other ones I mentioned would be Anna Gamboa, Stevie Heiliger, and Principal Whitehead.
I'm Stevie Heiliger, and I'm going to come at this a little. I'm a parent. So I'm going to be way less technical than everybody else and kind of talk about my experience with the school. So I am here to support and advocate for the approval of both of these items 3 and 4. I'm a parent to 3 kiddos, all of which are in River Springs schools. 2 are at the Corona Student Center, but my oldest was there as well. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak on their behalf. I was unable to come to the March meeting, but have since viewed the recording and noticed that the concerns are about the same as they've been talked about tonight, the playground area and the parking and the traffic. So for the first point, much of the conversation revolved around the assumption that everybody was going to be there at the same time. So I wanted to make sure, just from the parents' perspective, that what they're saying is true about our schedules being scattered. In fact, at this time, the most full-time program is only on campus Monday through Wednesday for a full day. And then Thursday is a half day. And then Friday, they're not on campus and the Learning Center happens. So that's the ones that are normally on home study at the time. So, and the lines always move. I've been at this for 7 years, and it's a well-oiled machine. It's not just a plan, I can assure you that. The line is always moving. At times there's a little bit of backup where we're at right now because we're outgrowing it. For the second point of the playground, I can assure you that it will be, as you saw today, to the maximum benefit to the kids. This is not a poor planned thing. This is never going to be something that's pushed together. That's not the Springs way. They really are here for the kids. And a lot of these things feel like obstacles, but as you can see, I don't know if you could see her face as she was seeing the new playground, but she was jumping up and down. So she's very excited about it. In summary, I understand the importance of all of these things and the traffic. I'm just asking that you deeply consider approving the project. This would give a huge opportunity to grow a program that has been a game changer for not only all 3 of my children, but literally thousands of others. Just don't remove the opportunity for us parents to continue to choose that for our kids, even if it doesn't seem like the traditional option. So that's what we're asking. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Heiliger. And then whoever other speakers would like to speak next.
Good evening, Commission. My name is Jamie Merchant. Let me pull up I'm here to give support for the specific plan in CUP for River Springs Charter School to be approved to expand into a larger building on Compton Avenue. While I believe that CNUSD public school system is solid and offers a wide array of programs, I am also aware that reality is not every student fits in the traditional educational setup that the system has. Parent choice is so important. Education should be as unique as each student. Some kids excel in math and others art and need extra different environment to really shine. That is where River Springs Charter School comes in. It provides a space where learning is flexible and tailored to the individual needs. By moving into a larger facility, they are able to broaden their ability to meet the diverse needs of our students. The choice in education is crucial. Parents understand their children best and should have the freedom to choose a school that matches their child's specific learning needs. I understand the concerns regarding the pickup and drop-off, and being the professional carpool mom that I am, I know that every school drop-off has procedures and policies that the parents and students catch on to very quickly. The pickup line always moves very fast. I also think that the businesses in the area will see an increase in sales because I know with my busy schedule, every stop I make is planned after school drop-off and before pickup. And I don't want to go out of my way for anything, and so I'm going to be shopping at Sam's Club and Home Depot and getting paint for that weekend project. All in between when my child's getting a robust education. Giving families a free alternative school setting that fits their families and students' needs is huge. It empowers the students, giving them a chance to succeed in an environment that truly understands and supports them. So I really kindly ask you to please take this into consideration because I think it's a great benefit for our community. Thank you.
Ms. Anna Gamboa, and I'm a Springs parent for 7 years and also a longtime Corona resident. Our family's been here for 45 years. And I absolutely advocate for the new site. As others stated, when we saw the plans on the screen, my kids jumped for joy, got very excited. We do love our center we have now, but it is tiny. And the prospect of having this beautiful, new, clean, safe facility is very exciting to all of us. And I want to advocate for Springs as a school. They have provided our family, which we have some very unique, special educational needs and sometimes difficulties. And they have provided us with extensive research or resources that have supported our family with our schooling and all of our unique needs. But the last thing I want to share is I can attest to the seriousness and the safety and the responsibility that Springs provides, because every single week I get an email, and the email reminds me very clearly laid out what all of the drop-off and all of the pickup procedures are. And if I happen to not catch that email, I also get a text that tells me all the things I was supposed to know and remember that week. And then after I get the reminder from the text, I also get an app notification. So I have 3 different reminders on a weekly basis that clearly states the drop-off and pickup procedures and how we have to be mindful to the community, where we can park, when we're allowed to arrive, and all of those details. So I just wanted to attest to the fact that they do take the safety and their commitment to the city very seriously. So thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Ms. Gamboa. And then Mr. Whitehead.
I'm glad to be back before you one more time. and hopefully this will be the best time, we have the opportunity here to do something special together. One thing I can truly speak on in my 25 years with Springs, yes, I am that old, I have also been affiliated with 6 different Springs sites, and we have never, in my time, ever had a poor relationship with our co-tenants, our neighbors, the people around us. We have always been able to work with fellow businesses and to provide the utmost services for our students without impinging on the rights and of our neighbors. So I can tell you that a lot of thought was put into this presentation. Dr. Hermsmeyer and our team, and as you can see, my colleagues and parents have come out tonight because they believe in what we're doing. And I can tell you from experience that it will be positive, and I will be at the forefront when cars are pulling in and cars are leaving. I will be out there in front with a stop sign in my hand. So I can assure you that we will be working diligently to put forth the effort in what you decide tonight and allow us to move forward to ensure that we are allowing our families to come in, to drop off, to pick up without being a burden on the city or our neighbors. I thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Principal. Ms. Capilla, were there any other cards that were submitted?
No, Chair.
Okay. I think I would like to ask Mr. Rosas to come back, who gave us the presentation, in case there are commissioners with questions. I know I have questions, so. Hi, thanks for coming back. I appreciate the presentation too. I guess I have a couple things, and if staff can put your presentation back in case we need to reference that, that would probably be useful. So you showed the, you mentioned that there was one school that was used as a comparison, and then you showed the video from the Murrieta school, but I wasn't sure if that was the same school that you had mentioned like a minute or two before that as a, I think you said it was your busiest school or something.
So the school I calculated for the queuing length, the maximum, was a different school. It was from a couple of years ago. It was used for the analysis. The school shown in Murrieta was, after our last meeting with you, we went back and said, we need to find something to show how this works. And this Murrieta site is a really good example. But to answer your question, it was 2 different locations. And I was being consistent with the traffic analysis with the original location.
Okay. And is the other site that you had based for the queuing, is that a school still being operated now?
Yes, it's in San Jacinto. It used to be River Springs. Now it's Renaissance Academy, I believe.
Okay.
I don't know if they sold it or I can't speak to that. I'm sorry. They just,
yeah.
They'll shoot me later.
And you said that you think the name is what?
Renaissance Valley Academy. Sorry.
Good enough. That's all I have at the moment. I'll let other commissioners get in.
Thank you, Mr. Rosas. I appreciated the video and the presentation. It answered my questions for the most part. I did want to go back to one of your slides after the queue flushing video that you had. Was there one other slide for the option D where the blue came through?
I'll try and queue it up. The queue works faster with the school than my button.
And I wanted to say how much I appreciated these slides where it talks about you have your zip code representation, which really contributed to where they're going, where they're coming from, where they're going, and for the circulation. I appreciated that. I think this is the most convincing here, is that there is a plan C, D. And I don't know that with the hybrid school that has been explained to us that it's going to be necessary, but it's there in case need be. So it was very convincing with your presentation. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I did have a question for the doctor. If she could come up, I had a question, please. Could you go back to the playground pictures, please? Doctor, so when the kids are here, and this would be fine, either one is fine. Okay. Not this one, but go back to the actual site plan. There you go. So, and you talked about the gates.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so when the kids are in the play area, no traffic is driving through that area.
And in fact, oh, sorry, finish your question.
I just wanted to confirm that is what was stated.
Yes.
And so, because my concern is this the fencing? Is this just an example from?
This is, do you see where the yellow and green, where it's, there's a green line going from the side of the building and then up at the top?
Correct.
There will be fencing there to keep another, we always like to have for security purposes, 2 lines of defense, if we can, 2 locked doors between to the extent that we can. And so this is a way to keep all the students in this area, and it keeps it self-contained so they can go to and from the restroom to the building. So once the drop-off is complete, we will close these gates. This is what we do at our typical centers. We close the gates after drop-off, and we open them up 15 minutes before pickup.
Because when the queuing video was going through, there were no kids in the playground area because they're in the building.
No kids in the playground area during that particular site is exactly the same way as this. It doesn't have, it has only the blacktop,
Perfect. And that was my concern. Even though you had 6-foot wrought iron fencing to offset the play area, it doubles as a vehicle area, but not at the same time.
Nope, not at the same time. And in fact, we have so much extra parking at this building that we won't be using this area for parking except at events and different activities where we might need more parking. But during the regular school day, there will be no parking in this area.
And my attention goes to the trash enclosure, which is going to be changed, correct, to anticipate the larger size. I believe in the staff write-up it talked about the square footage for the new one.
Well,
whatever that would look like.
That is not my. I don't know. I really don't know much about the trash enclosure.
No worries.
There's a new trash enclosure to the southerly entrance there into the back parking area. And the old trash enclosure will be used for storage.
So the new trash area will be where? Up on the green and yellow area?
Just inside that, when you first enter that first gate, it'll be just inside that area to the, I guess that's the southeast.
Okay. And I understand that the right now it's unoccupied. The building has problems with trespassing, et cetera. Not interior building perhaps, but on the outside. And once it's repurposed and it's going to be utilized as a school, there'll be less likelihood. But I wanted to request, and I'll talk with my colleagues in a minute, that it be top, bottom, sides, and you're completely enclosed. It's the Raising Cane standard, and you can ask staff what that is.
Raising Cane. Okay.
They'll know.
I'll ask staff.
And then when I visited the site, and you're absolutely right, it's quiet in there. You're right near the freeway, but it's actually quite nice. There is a well-worn path in the hill going up to the freeway, and you can see up on the top where the V ditches are, there's a separation of fences. So just so you know, I'm going to talk to my colleagues about asking you guys to secure that opening and make it wrought iron all the way, and that way it'll discourage that transient pathway through there, and that might help you on the weekends or evenings when the school's not occupied. Thank you.
Other questions for any of the applicants' team?
I have questions for traffic. Getting your steps in. Can you go to the outbound traffic slide?
Yes.
The yellow slide.
So 5 and 6 are, I think, the parts that make me the most nervous, because if I heard you correctly, 75% of the traffic will be going back to the 15? Did I hear that correctly?
Yes.
And we don't see that many cars being impactful to those intersections?
That is correct. The analysis, in this case, I did not redo the analysis. It was left at 900 students. And we did not have a degradation of the level of service beyond the threshold. So the split here, if you look at 6, the intersection, about 50 of that 75, about 50% would get to the first U-turn. And I guesstimated about 25% would not get over fast enough, and they would get to California. So that would make up the 75% returning to Interstate 15. And again, it did not exceed thresholds causing any kind of impact.
Okay. And then in the video, it shows multiple cars being able to queue next to each other so that when a kid gets loaded, they can go. You don't have that luxury, if you will, here, since the cars are queuing right next to each other. Is that a fair statement?
If I understood your question correctly, so the queuing that is parallel, there's no children are not permitted to enter or leave a vehicle. They are watched by staff. The staff, by the way, have walkie-talkies, so they actually give a heads up to the teachers, so-and-so cars coming, queue up this child. But they are not, those cars are not permitted to discharge or load a student. So when they get to the drop-off or pickup, it's a single line, and that's where all the loading and unloading occurs.
So in the video, it didn't look like it was a single line when it came to actually loading. The queuing was a single line in the video, but it looked like you had multiple cars wide that when one loaded, they could leave. In this scenario, it doesn't feel like you can because it's one width. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, so you're absolutely correct. So in this case, the queuing area coming south parallels the drop-off and pickup. So those 5 vehicles, once they all load, they will go at the same time. So you would not have what you observed correctly at the other site, that they could turn left and go around a vehicle that was slower. So if a loading or unloading may be slower, yes, there might be a little bit momentary delay for that one vehicle, but where all 5 would leave at the same time. But they would not deviate that because they would probably have cones also. And again, the monitors would make sure that they behave.
Okay. It just looked like one slow kid stops that whole thing from going. And that's probably my concern, is that we're saying it's quick, but I have the slowest kids, had the slowest kids. So I would always been the one that was blocking it. And that's my concern, is one person stops that whole line from moving.
And that can very well be the case. But when we look at the data, a lot of that's baked in. We look at what happened, what was the longest queue, and if there was an event like that, it's baked in. So we have that accounted for. But probably most important, we have reserved space.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Since this slide's up, Mr. Rossi, you have a lot of information that's very helpful. Your estimates are based upon human behavior. I'm curious for site or location number 3, where you're saying that you believe 80% will make the left. knowing that you've got 2 queues to go to U-turn, which is in 2 quick intersections, or at least 1 quick intersection. As a traffic engineer, would you recommend that at location number 3 that more people make a right and take the long way around?
Probably not.
And why?
And it's because human nature is to usually take the shortest path, like water will travel the shortest path. And maybe somebody tries turning right and then they realize, oh, it took quite a bit longer because you're going around the block. And people who are turning right are probably in the zip codes west and north of that area. So that would be the basis of that distribution. But back to your point is people more than likely turn south, fastest way to get back to the freeway.
And you think that's the correct approach?
I believe so, yes.
And what about when there's major construction at that intersection?
During disruptions,
Caltrans.
Again, as Rosie mentioned, not seeing the plans or the time or the duration of the construction, there could be disruptions, and during that, let's call it a handful of months that you might have, people might pick an alternative route, but then once that interchange, the additional lanes come in, they'll probably, that interchange will flush quicker, and it'll give in more reason for them to go and do a couple of U-turns, or just one U-turn unless they get lost.
This slide's been very helpful for me. I appreciate the analysis, both for the in and out that you've taken.
Thank you, and thank you for the questions.
And I'll echo that. That slide was very useful. I'd actually like to see the one before again, the inbound slide. And then at the Murrieta School, because we saw the video and we saw the flaggers, and you kind of talked about some of the the procedures, and do we know how many staff members are involved in managing that?
I'm going to go on a limb because I don't work there, but I think they use all available staff. So of the 50 some odd people, I'll let them speak to it if I'm wrong, but they put all hands on deck, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, obviously they all can't be in the parking lot. Some of them have to be.
Somebody has to watch the kids.
Right. And then, actually, I see the superintendent coming back, but.
Right. Everybody is on pickup duty, but some of them are in the building with children that are at the next, the next layer to come out with the walkie-talkies. So it's definitely we have the staffing and everybody understands that's part of their job. It really does go pretty fast. It's usually less than 20 minutes from the time it starts to the time it ends. So.
And I'm curious a little more about the current location here in Corona. I know you've been there a very long time, and that's obviously been, great for so many people in our city to, who've brought their kids there and trusted them to you. But currently, what is the enrollment at the location?
We have about total enrollment is almost 300. But on the busiest day, 195 students.
And what grades are those 195?
They're, is it TK, EJ? TK through 8.
Okay. Okay, I don't have any further questions. Anyone else? Okay. And then thank you so much. Thank you for all of you on your team and for the other members of the public who spoke. We do appreciate that, you being part of the process here. And so then with that, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission. I'd like to hear what my fellow commissioners are, where they're at this point.
Well, I'd like to thank the city staff and the charter school staff for in 1 month to come back and respond to our feedback from the previous planning commission and the concerns that we have. You know, at the time, the play area was just a comment. It wasn't even on a sheet of paper, and we had no idea what it looked like, and the children wouldn't have even known that it was a playground. And to see it thought through, the safety concerns of the flow and the access of the gate, I think that is fabulous to have a plan that seems consistent with the other schools that you have, and I think also consistent with the site. The traffic part, I do have concerns about Compton Road or Compton Avenue. I don't think that that's going to ever go away. I do feel like the traffic plan to allow for 1,460 linear feet of stacking inside the lot when it looks like only 800 is needed. For me, I was still concerned that there'd be vehicles on Compton Avenue. And I really don't, after looking through the documentation and seeing the video, Mr. Rossi's very thought out details, I feel like the only issue is just the increased traffic on Compton. Not that they're stacking traffic, but just additional traffic. You know, for me, safety and of children and of parents is paramount. And, you know, my concerns still go around Compton, that road is going to be difficult. It's right turn only. Exiting is going to cause 2 U-turns according to the traffic pattern. I don't know if there's any way around that. I do think that the school site itself has been pretty thought out very well. Having 4 options should any of the first 2 scenarios not work to revise the stacking seems like a very sensible plan to me. That would be my comments on the initial application.
I too am still struggling with I would say the outbound more than anything. But I'm weighing that with what Principal Whitehead said at our last meeting, which was their goal is to meet the students where they're at. And I really heard that. That clearly stuck with me this whole time. So weighing that with the impact that it's going to have on the people that already use Ontario and Compton.
I can appreciate your comments. I was not feeling good at the end of the last meeting. I think they've really raised the bar to answer our questions, come back with solutions. The traffic presentation Mr. Rossi gave was compelling. It was data-driven, which I love. As far as the queue, flushing the queue on site so it doesn't overflow, I have to keep reminding myself that this is a hybrid school, which is much of what Pivot was presenting to us during theirs, the alternate style of classrooms. It isn't so much Thursday and Friday, obviously, for their low day attendance days, but Monday through Wednesday, which is Monday especially peak for commute traffic. Having the Ontario Avenue widening is a big concern, but it's going to be a big concern for everyone in that area. I think I'm impressed with the amount of communication that the school has with the students, the parents. I think that if need be during that construction, there needs to be all cars will not go this way or go that way or whatever it may be. They're all signing contracts, which builds confidence for me. I was concerned about the fencing, to be honest with you. It just takes one person to step on a gas pedal instead of a brake and that wrought iron fencing. But now knowing with the safety factors of the fencing, the gates, and the 2 will not happen at the same time. There won't be traffic flowing while kids are in the play area. I like the play area. I went on site. They addressed the trash container for me and the fencing concern up at the top to stop any type of transient. As far as number 6 in the yellow, that is a problem. That's only 2 or 3 cars at the most. So I would like to see a contract stating you will not veer over 3 lanes to do that U-turn. Go to the actual intersection at California, or is it Rimpau? That would be my comment as far as helping with the traffic flow, especially pickup when traffic is increasing on those streets for regular commuters, let alone a school time letting out, although it is spread out over time.
All right, thank you. I appreciate hearing from all my fellow commissioners. Yeah, I think we were all very receptive to the idea of what this school could bring to the community. You know, as Commissioner Longwell put it, you know, students have different needs, and they're willing to meet the students where they are, and that's obviously important to a lot of parents and students. So I think you know, we were always open, you know, and liked the idea of what this was potentially going to be, but it was the details were the sticking points for us. And I do think the plan they brought back here is much improved, and I'm very happy to see that. So I'm glad that they worked on it and came up with some good ideas, made some changes. I'm still just not entirely sure how I reconcile the queuing. You know, I really wish there was another alternative, because I do worry that there are too many cars at the peak time for with the 540 or however many students being dropped off in the morning. And then and pickup obviously takes longer, so I'm a little concerned with, you know, how that would play out. I know that the team is very experienced in managing these things, but this is a very challenging site, as we've all talked about. So I don't know. I'm not entirely sure yet where you know, what I would ultimately come down on, but I mean, I'm wondering if maybe a further limitation in the number of students might reduce the traffic more and you know, kind of, you know, make this a little more less worrisome for things to go wrong. I mean, we all know part of our DNA in Corona is knowing what bad traffic situations are. So,
interestingly, to that point, of all the applications we've had in the last few years about traffic, this yes, it's going to add traffic, but it seems to me the most thought out impact that we've seen. I mean, to see the actual document that was provided by Mr. Rossi, understanding it. Yeah, I'm still not comfortable with its impact, but knowledge is power, and I think what we've learned from the applicant is that if there are struggles with those U-turns or the complexity of crossing 3 lanes to make that, my sense is that there's going to be guidance that we already heard. It's going to be an email, a text, public, social media, and probably talk at Starbucks or wherever else after school programs about what didn't work. I think that they're going to help figure that out. You know, for us to, I don't know, I think for us to say reduce again, their program that they've spelled out here really does seem to be what their needs are. I think the first time that we heard from Springs, it was a bit more pie in the sky, but this seems to be very thought out in terms of the number of students. They have a 45,000 square foot building that they should be able to use. I have a sense that I don't think it could get better than this.
I think I can echo your comments, Commissioner Sicklin. I think what we need to remember is like Pivot, and I hate to keep going back to them, but that was such a learning curve for us to hear about it. And visiting them before our last meeting and seeing how they're still growing their population. They haven't met their target yet. And I think that is, with this new expansion of this school, I think it is going to be a growing, and it will take time to meet maximum capacity. I think that could take place over the course of the construction coming on Ontario widening. I think that getting into the weeds and telling them how to run their business further as far as the number of students, I'm not interested in that. But I think I've seen enough today over the last 2 meetings where I agree the communication is excellent between the school and the parents. I have that confidence from listening to their testimony. And I'd like to see it play out. I'm in favor of it.
So I have a question for staff. Is there any way to sort of do a condition with some sort of a backstop, you know, to in the event that there's a lot of traffic spilling back onto city streets that would, you know, because as we've seen, I think Commissioner Alexander's point is fair that, you know, they're not going to open up the doors and have their full, you know, complement of students. It's going to take time for them to build up to it. And so, you know, if they hit 300, 400, and we're already seeing significant, you know, effects on the city streets, on Compton, Ontario, whatever it might be, is there any way to sort of, you know, have a backstop against, you know, continued growth in that situation until they fixed it or something like that?
So the only thing we could do is require them to monitor their traffic and to have a traffic control plan that prevents, you know, a staging situation on the city street. I cannot sit here and just arbitrarily give out a number and say that's been analyzed and we say the cap is 400 students. It doesn't make any sense. And nor should the city be just making an arbitrary decision like that. So I think there's multiple things we've heard tonight. It's not like a traditional school. It's hybrid. It's going to be an ebb and flow. And there's going to be days that it's going to be times during the week that's probably going to be really quiet. So I think it's just a matter of what we physically see out there, and if there's complaints, and if our traffic division needs to go out there and sit out there during the peak and evaluate, they've done that at other schools, then they can easily address that with the operator of the school, absolutely.
Yeah, and I wasn't trying to insist that we would put a cap on it at this point, but if whatever situation they're at and there are these you know, spillovers that affect the city streets, then, you know, what's the mechanism? And it sounds like you're saying that the traffic division would evaluate, and then there would be communication and insistence on them addressing the situation, right?
Absolutely, and that's the whole point of this permit. So the permit will always allow us to come back to the table. And rarely do we have a situation where a permit holder wants to not be a good neighbor with the city. So we definitely have that in our court.
Okay. Any further comments from my fellow commissioners?
No, I'd like to propose a motion, if I may. I'd like to propose approval of SPA 2023-001 as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, let's vote, please.
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner, thank you.
They come alive now.
Yeah. All right, motion passes.
Here I am now.
We are now moving on to item 4, which is for CUP 2023-0017. We've already heard the presentation. Any further questions for staff at this point? No. And then We did receive speaker cards for covering both items. If any of the speakers would like to speak on this item again to be heard, then they are welcome to do so at this time. And then were there any other cards submitted, Ms. Capilla, since then?
No, Chair.
Okay. With that, then we will close the public hearing and bring it back here to the dais.
Chair, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve CUP 2023-0017 with 2 conditions of approval for the trash enclosure upgrade and also for the upper property fencing up at the freeway, that be enclosed. Connect the angle of the wrought irons up there.
Okay, I'll second your motion.
Aye.
Thank you.
It's always a troublemaker.
It's only this spot. All right. They have a school once it moves through City Council.
So at this point, that is the agenda items. Then we have the section for written communications. Ms. Capilla, were there any written communications from the public providing information or seeking action by the commission?
No, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Coletta, anything you'd like to add? Nope. All right. Other commissioners, any reports?
No, but I would like to thank everyone for coming tonight.
And bringing children. That's pretty exciting. What a good civil lesson.
Okay, then with that, our next meeting will be Monday, April 22nd, and we are adjourned.